Yeah, hello everyone, and thank you so much for attending our session. My name is Nataliia Korotkova, and I'm a PhD candidate at the Department of Sociology and Political Science. And TechNIP FMC is sponsoring my PhD project that focuses on digitalization of knowledge collaboration in the oil and gas value chain. But today I'm going to talk about an interesting facet of digitalization, namely technological fashion. So, grounded in the results of my empirical study, my talk will cover trust building in adopting digital twins, maneuvering between technological fashion skepticism and optimism. And just to start, I want to quote one of the leaders of one of European largest company that stated that digital transformation is probably one of the most difficult things you can do in any existing organization. And not least, that company actually gave up on digital transformation as it was seen as unachievable at its essence. So we need to understand why that's difficult to transform digitally and whether it has something to do with technological fashion. So first of all, we need to understand what is technological fashion and whether it has something in common with fashion in aesthetics. When we talk about fashion, we first of all think about fashion runways and crazy fashion trends of 90s and 80s, but we can see a similar dynamic in the technological world where one trend changes the other one, and the most prominent examples are Apple, SAP, ERP system, agile development methods, or broader concepts like Industry 4.0. And based on these examples, we can define technological fashion as a relatively transitory collective belief disseminated by management fashion setters, such as consultancies, researchers, or management gurus, that a specific technology leads to rational management progress. And when we look at one of the most prominent fashion setters, such as Gartner, McKinsey, or Accenture, we can find a myriad of different trends with digital connotation. And today we are going to focus on one of them, namely digital twins. Digital twins are chased by many oil and gas companies that try to domesticate this trend. Yet, we need to understand whether this digital twin is actually a fashion trend before moving further to domestication of this technology. And for doing that, we need to focus on a conceptual rather than material form of a specific technological idea. So our analysis of all the reports and publications on digital twins has reported that digital twin as a concept responds to all 7 facets of a fashion trend, such as promise of substantial performance enhancement, presenting the idea as timely, innovative, and future-oriented, threat of bankruptcy, and claim of wide or even universal applicability, as digital twins is claimed to be applicable in all industries from oil, gas, and aerospace to healthcare. And not least, companies are constantly fed with well-known adopters that successfully implemented this technology. As well as conceptually wise, this trend evolved from the original idea of product lifecycle management to mirror worlds and digital twins. That sounds catchier. As well as interpretive viability of digital twins is extremely broad. And interpretive viability presumes that a technology can be shaped and reshaped in different contexts. And we can see it in definitions of digital twins. So first of all, there is no definition of a digital twin in the industry. And the existing ones often define digital twin as a paradigm, way of thinking, philosophy, etc. that presumes that this idea can be implemented in a variety of different contexts. And when we can look at Gartner, that one of the management fashion setters or technological fashion setters, so we can see that digital twins has been among emerging technological trends since 2017. And we can see similar dynamic among fashion consumers, companies and people that actually consume a trend. And we can see this rising popularity from 2017, the same year as Gartner introduced it. And research on digital twins also exploded from 2017-2018. But it still is dominated by engineering and computer science field. Even though it's important to underscore that all reports on digital twins say that soft issues, such as trust, are the most important and challenging in implementing digital twins. But still, we know very little about that. So when we can clearly see this fashionability of digital twins, we can now move further to domestication or adoption of this trend. And first of all, we can wonder why these trends should be adopted at all if they're just transitory fads. But both research and practice show that not fashions are empty fads, and many of them have substance and value and should be adopted. They can, for example, drive new business models. And at the same time, we need to understand how this fashionable adoption should be maneuvered, because to unlock its full potential, it should be implemented at the local level in organizations where the main changes arise. And when talking about obstacles of implementation, we need to focus on trust, that I did in my study. And we know that overall trust is claimed to be a critical element of technology adoption and acceptance. Yet we know very little about how fashion discourse impacts trust in technology. And to do that, I want to just push your attention to recent results of Edelman Trust Barometer that stand that tech halo effect is fading away, and trust in technology reached all-time low in 2021. And some of the main reasons for this decline in trust is inability to understand fashionable ideas, such as blockchain, machine learning, or digital twins, so citizens and regular people can't really understand what it is. So in order to answer all these questions, I conducted a case study on digital twin adoption and translation in customer supply settings of Technip FMC and Neptune Energy, where I aspire to answer the main question of how do organizational members cope with implementing a fashionable technological concept. And results of my study show the duality of technological fashion. And this duality presumes that, on the one hand, it creates optimism, accelerates fashion adoption, and legitimizes organization in broader societal and organizational context. But on the other hand, it also complexifies internal legitimacy both in management and technology, so we trust them less, as well as trust in an interpretation of fashionable ideas becoming more and more challenging. And this in total drive this, what I call the optimism-skepticism dilemma among different actors on different levels. And there can be identified three main whys, namely different driving forces, perception segmentation, and broad interpretive space. First, when we look at driving forces of technology adoption, such as digital twins, we can see different driving forces, but at the same time, we can see that they work differently. And while top management are mainly subject to competitive and mimetic forces, since they are very sensitive to customer needs and promises of performance enhancement, local users, such as implementers and end users, are mainly coerced to implement a specific idea. And that drives this trust-distrust continuum divergency, where the former are more trustful and optimistic, while the latter are more skeptic and distrustful. In a similar fashion, we can see that among 5 main obstacles of digital twin development and implementation, conceptual one was the most prominent and challenging. And we can see it in one of the quotes. It's easy to discuss digital twin as a broader terminology, but when you actually start diving into the material, it's hard to define exactly what the digital twin is and why you need it. And another interview said that when people say digital twin, it's simply a bad project, and that's why a lot of digital twin initiatives until today did not succeed. So this conceptual fragmentation presumes that different people have different and often conflicting understanding of a specific idea. And when we talk about this fragmentation and obstacles, we also need to understand how to maneuver them and have more pragmatic perspective for local actors that actually need to balance this optimism-skepticism dilemma and build trust in fashionable ideas. So, based on the results of my empirical case study, we propose a 5-step model that can help local actors to crack the trust code in fashionable ideas. And the first step is familiarization. Familiarization presumes that black box fashionable technology need to be domesticated for management and users as well as technicians that have very limited understanding of this trend. And here, familiarization narrative should interweave fashionable concept with core business model and constantly update and educate employees. The second step is what is it in for me, where fashion interpreters or local actors need to actually show the value and disadvantages of a specific technology that local actors struggle to understand. The third step is influencers or trust influencers that are both human and non-human actors, such as, for example, classification societies, social media, advertisement, etc., that ensure change management within the organization by creating digital mindset. And while these three steps can be applicable to established technologies and mature technologies, the next one is specifically critical for fashionable ones. So deep fashion presumes that fashionable ideas need to be presented separately from other overhyped trends, such as digital transformation that creates extremely high level of distrust, as well as reality check. And reality check has something to do with broad interpretive space of a specific idea. And here local actors need to identify, align and balance expectation and needs of different people based on their technological frames. So by these 5 steps, we argue that trust code can be cracked, but it's important to note that this model is mainly applicable to the very early implementation where the fashionable discourse is the most prominent. And to conclude, we can state that local actors need to maneuver fashionability of technologies, and they can do it by building trust and downplaying the hype at the local level to ensure greater implication of a specific technology. So thank you so much for your time, and if you have questions and feedback, please provide them following this QR code. Thank you.